Good morning, everybody. My name is Elisa Caredio. I am a product manager in the enterprise networking group here at Cisco. Today, I want to walk you through a few innovations that we are launching here at Cisco Live that complement the branch threat defense portfolio that we have on our ISR branch routers. So first of all, let's talk about security. Why is security important for a branch, and why is the branch router in need to have a security stack? First of all, there's a lot going on at the branch these days. The branch is undergoing a profound transformation. Companies and organizations around the world are using more and more cloud and SaaS applications for their daily activities, and users sitting at the branch are expecting the same user experience that they would expect if the application was running on their PCs, even though those apps are hosted in the cloud. Rich media content is becoming the de facto standard for any communication between employees and from companies to their partners and customers. Moreover, more people are actually sitting at the branch today. More users implies more devices. And with BYOD, bring your own devices, tablets, phones, and whatnot, there's a rapid increase of the devices that are connected to the branch office today. With the move of the apps to the cloud, there's a lot of pressure on the bandwidth requirement that the branch has today compared to just a few years ago. And all of these puts a lot of pressure on companies in trying to optimize their cost, because bandwidth equals cost. So many companies are adopting a hybrid WAN approach with technologies like Cisco iWAN, where they can transform their WAN transport by using internet links alongside MPLS and then shift traffics between the two depending on what is mission critical. But other companies are also looking at the local internet path as the solution to do some of the cost cutting, the cost savings, and also provide their the branch users, that experience that they need when they access those remote applications hosted in the cloud. With direct internet access, is obvious we are opening the door directly to the internet. Bad things can come in. So this calls for branch security, and specifically branch threat defense. As I said, all these trends are shifting the branch deployments toward direct internet access, and those deployments are now subject to potential threats that are becoming increasingly more sophisticated. It takes a lot longer to discover that, and they're smarter, so you need to actually mitigate them in a shorter life cycle before they move. And these threats are not just potentially affecting your branch, but potentially they can also move laterally from branch to branch to branch and affect your whole corporate network. So today we're going to launch or discuss a few things that we have been launching here. The first one I want to talk about is Cisco Umbrella Branch. Cisco Umbrella Branch is one of the first integration of the OpenDNS products into Cisco products. About a year ago, Cisco acquired the OpenDNS company, and today we are very proud to have that integration available on our ISR branch routers. What is Cisco Umbrella Branch? Well, first of all, let me talk about OpenDNS in just a minute. OpenDNS provides domain filtering capabilities as well as DNS-layer threat protection. It's all done in the cloud, and the way it works is that through machine learning and analytics, the cloud has a very rich database built over time that classifies domains based on their security risks. And the idea is, from the branch router, we connect to that cloud service and we allow any traffic really originated from the branch to be checked against the database. So if any device sitting at the branch tries to access a domain that is classified as risky and potentially carry malware, it can be blocked right away. So the idea is really to protect in a very simple way, in a very easy deployment, all the devices sitting at a branch against malware, phishing, C2 callbacks, and also provide the capabilities for companies to create their own policies and block access to certain sites or categories of sites. It's important for organizations to protect themselves against liability as well. So blocking sites like gaming, maybe not here in Vegas, but somewhere else, or dating or inappropriate content is important for them. And for companies that provide guest Wi-Fi to their own customers is also more important, because you wouldn't even know where those guests have hooked up their devices. They could have been infected even before coming to your branch network. So you want to prevent them to infect your branch network and potentially your corporate network with something that they brought in. So how it works? So we have here a branch office. Typically, the branch office is connected to the headquarters through a VPN tunnel. That's the traditional WAN infrastructure. But you also have employees and you have guests. And those could generate traffic which may be backhauled as well to the headquarters, but may be going out the direct internet path, as we were talking before. So what we want to do is prevent guests and corporate users from connecting to malicious sites and prevent infected devices from expanding from infecting the rest of the network with the malware that they carry. So, as I said, this is done through a statistical model built in the cloud. The Open DNS or Cisco Umbrella Branch Cloud ingests millions of data points per second. Why? Because it's a DNS server after all. So any device that points its DNS to the Open DNS Cisco Umbrella Branch Cloud would provide millions of inputs to the cloud that can then build a very sophisticated and rich database that classifies the site based on the security risk. The way it works on the ISR router is very simple. You do have a what we call Open DNS or Cisco Umbrella Branch connector, which simply redirects DNS requests generated by any devices sitting at the branch to the Open DNS cloud. The Open DNS cloud does its magic, applies the policies that the organization would have configured on the portal, and spits out a verdict. The verdict could be block or allow. This verdict goes back to the ISR router. The ISR routers then blocks the traffic if the verdict is blocked, and also a block page is served by the Open DNS Cisco Umbrella Branch Cloud. That page is fully customizable. So if you're a company that want to provide additional text or a logo, company logo in that block page, that can be done.
Now, just a quick question on
yes.
that. You're using DNS as your filter here. So what happens if you've got someone using direct to IP? Do you have a mechanism in the router that will block things unless there's been a previous approval on that IP?
At this point, not yet, but again, this is something that we're working on.
Okay.
And we don't have to use the actual router for DNS, it's actually capturing those
it's
DNS
automatic. It's automatic as long as you enable the Open DNS Cisco Umbrella Branch connector that happens behind the scene.
Right, so it's capturing the DNS
yes.
request over the wire.
Yes.
And you only on the 4Ks though.
This is only on the ISR 4Ks.
Okay.
And you have the ability to create a whitelist on the router itself for domains that you don't want to be seen by the open DNS. For example, if you're at Cisco, you really don't want any user that browse cisco.com or the internal cisco.com pages to be redirected to the open DNS cloud. So you have the ability to whitelist those.
I have one more question here
Yes,
as it relates to this. So we're doing a lookup, and this may be more technical, and it may be later on.
We have the technical
so
expert
please
here.
tell me if that's all right. But we're looking this up flow by flow. I mean, I'm concerned about the latency, right? The idea right now, our
Sure.
When we talk about security tends to be on the device, making decisions immediately, usually hardware-based decisions as often as possible.
I got that. It's been a concern for us as well, but the results that we've got from latency measurements are really, really great. Do you
I want to add
comment?
one point there. So we are looking at the DNS queries here, right? You're going to send that DNS query to anyway to internet. If it's like a service provider offering a DNS service, then he's going to give his DNS server. So you're going to send that query to internet to get the DNS resolved anyways. So instead of going to service provider DNS, now it's going to go to OpenDNS and get the resolution back.
Okay.
And OpenDNS has resolvers around the globe. They have POPs many places that has resolvers, so it can resolve much quicker.
So this comes back to the idea that this right now isn't direct IP to IP. This is all based off of name resolution currently.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Yep.
All right, so I don't want to necessarily bore you too much with this slide, but what I wanted the takeaway to be is that OpenDNS is meant to be simple. Simple to order, simple to deploy, and simple to use. So the simplicity comes from the fact that you just need to enable the ISR connector, the connector on the ISR. That establishes a secure tunnel to the OpenDNS Cisco Umbrella Branch cloud. The ISR router registers to the cloud and automatically gets all the policies that it should get that were configured on the cloud side, and it's ready to go. The OpenDNS Cisco Umbrella Branch portal provides a very granular monitoring that tells you exactly what's going on in the network. And it's very easy to use, and it provides the granularity of the report that any company would need without necessarily being a overly expert in security. So you don't need to be a super security expert to understand what's going on in your network. And it's also very easy to order as a solution. So you basically just purchase a OpenDNS subscription from the cloud, and that provides you all the tokens that are needed to put on in your ISR configuration and ready to go. Cisco Prime infrastructure can be used to push the configuration on all the branch routers in your organization. So you don't even have to deal with configuring and touching each branch at a time.
Now, quick question on this. I've been using OpenDNS on branch routers, like lower end ISRs, 871s, 881s, that sort of thing, just by pointing everything up to the OpenDNS stuff, and everything's managed up there with the subscription. That's really great, works fine. So with the Umbrella Security, how much of that functionality is being moved down from the cloud versus what we have now where it's just all done up at Open?
So the functionality is still in the cloud. The intelligence doesn't move from the cloud to the ISR. Mm-hmm. The verdict is enforced by the ISR routers. And what also the ISR does for you is that you don't have to point any devices or configure anything manually. You can, the ISR is taking care automatically of all those configurations the moment you enable the connector. Also, you don't have to worry about what's the DNS IP address, for example, in case it changes, what's the primary, what's the secondary, everything is taken care of. The ISR router acts on behalf of any devices that are sitting at the branch.
Okay, so right now, we're using the ISR as the DNS, and then it's going
Yes.
to open DNS. In this case, you don't have to use
You
the
don't
ISR
have
for
to.
DNS. It's an intercept.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a complete intercept and redirect that happen behind the scene.
If I can add 2 points quickly there.
Sure.
One, the router simply forwards the DNS queries, right? So it's a simple forwarding mechanism. And second, the intelligence remains in the cloud.
Yep.
And the other point I want to make is the clients, the primary target use case for this is guest users, where you don't have any control. They may have, you may give them OpenDNS or your router as the DNS server, they can override it with some other server, right? And this way, we intercept those DNS queries and override it with OpenDNS. So you can be sure all the guests are, according to the policy, they're going through the web filtering mechanism.
So it provides an enforcement mechanism as well as
Exactly.
just forwarding. Good.
Just to clarify there, and I just want to make sure I understand this. If our client is set to a different DNS server, different public DNS server, and we see the request come across the router, it's going to do its own lookup.
No, it's going to override. It's going to replace with the EDNS header with OpenDNS header.
Oh, so we're going to rip out whatever request they sent, not send it to the DNS server that they sent, so we can, with 100% guarantee, ensure that all DNS is going to OpenDNS.
That's correct.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, so even if somebody hacks the desktop and changes the DNS to something bad.
Or a local administrator, because they need local administrator rights, you still can enforce policy. That's really
That's
great.
correct.
The last point before switching to the next topic that I want to leave you with is that the OpenDNS solution is really powerful from an organization's standpoint, because you don't need to point any of your web traffic to the cloud, only DNS. The only traffic that leaves the branch to go to the OpenDNS cloud is really the DNS requests. The actual web traffic only goes to the web servers. And that's really powerful for data sovereignty issues or whatever is the internal corporate policy. The other point is that by acting at the DNS layer, you don't only protect web traffic, but also any other traffic that goes to a domain. Like if you do an FTP to a risky domain, it'll be blocked as well.
What about internal DNS queries? So we're talking about an ISR, 4000 that's going to be sitting as our WAN edge, most likely running in VPN or some sort of WAN connections or IWAN or whatever transit mechanism. A lot of our DNS queries are going to be for internal domains.
Yes.
Oh,
You have a whitelist. You can configure a whitelist of things that can skip the OpenDNS.
okay, perfect.
We're talking about branch here, and there's a lot of companies that are moving to the philosophy that everything's a branch. There's no headquarters.
Sure.
So is there any plans to bring this functionality to anything other than the ISR 4K, like to the ASR line or even the smaller ISRs for smaller branches?
I don't have concrete plans to share with you, but it's our vision.
Do verdicts, are they cached on the engine at all, or is it queried every time?
So as of now, it's not cached, so it's a query every time.
So if we all look up Microsoft.com.
The reason is because the database can change very rapidly,
Yeah,
so
that
you
was
don't want to
what I figured.
necessarily cache something that is potentially good today and 5 minutes later carry a threat.
Now, what would be really nice to see would be any verdict that comes back good, if it populates an access list, just an ephemeral access list, and at that point you could just say, okay, anything that's on this access list is allowed out, anything that's not isn't. That way you have to do a DNS resolution and get an approval before you can go direct by IP. And that'll block down the people who are trying to set up their own little VPNs outbound to do their own thing.
Great feedback.
Yeah, I mean, the caching issue, I think, would be handled by if you're running AD or some kind of internal DNS, right? Because the client's going to ask AD, and AD is going to go out.
Yeah, correct.
So the responses would be cached by your internal DNS, I would think, because usually your clients aren't going out to get DNS; they're asking for it internally. So you would still get the caching, because I have the same concern about latency.
Well, so we'll get the name cache or the address caching on your AD server, but the verdict will change.
Could change.
And keep in mind anything.
So you'd had to set that cache locally way down so that you could ask again.
That's right.
Changes.
Yeah. So there should be some best practices around how to configure your internal DNS for this to work properly.
Yes.
Well, and also anything that's on the whitelist, which is going to be your internal DNS, is going to skip this entire process anyway and utilize your own DNS caching anyhow.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing it maybe, and this was back to the whitelist. The idea is that because this is going to hit the router most likely before it hits a DNS server, we're talking about a branch deployment, right? It's going to hijack anything that isn't whitelisted. So if you're only whitelisting your internal domain, then every external request should be hijacked and sent to OpenDNS.
Yes,
So the caching
and that should
of your
be the-
local DNS shouldn't matter all that much.
That should be the best practice anyways.
Yeah, so I think the message is that there's this needs to be properly architected, unlike sort of the loosey-goosey DNS that we're used to sort of internally.
Well,
needs to be properly architected.
DNS needs to be architected.
DNS in general needs a revolution. And it's happening. It's just not there yet.